Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. As usual, today we're going to talk a little bit about gentrification. Actually, Robby L Caban is going to continue her story with regards to the area where the Tyler Perry stories or the Tyler Perry studios have been placed. But before that, we want to kind of get into a little bit of discussion before we get directly into that subject. But first of all, I am still excited about this picture here. Though I want to make a comment about something somebody said when I gave Nancy Pelosi her kudos for showing a woman in power with what do I call it? A woman in power with meek men, with men who are acting timid with the president. And this lady said, well, remember, Nancy Pelosi is no hero because after all, she has done X, Y, Z. Look, I am not looking for purity. I understand what she had to say perfectly. And what she said needed to be said. I agreed 100% with what she had to say. However, I think it is imperative that we take a look at things in a measured manner. It is not about the individual, it's about the composite. It is not about just one person, it's about the many. And what I really mean to say about that is that while it is true that Nancy Pelosi is a neoliberal, yes, but she's our neoliberal, and she's also very, very, very good at what she does. And I tell you, what I would love to see at some time are progressives who simply go ahead and say, you know what? I am going to learn everything I can from this woman. Because I tell you what, Nancy Pelosi has a lot to teach. She has a lot to teach a hell of a lot of people. And that is something, again, I don't want to overblow this or anything like that, but I think it is important that before we go ahead and say, oh, we're going to knock this woman for how she is, Nancy Pelosi, I think, again, not everything that we would want her to be, but what we need her to be when we need her to be. So anyhow, one of the things the reason I brought this up and I wanted to correct this is I wanted to let the people know that no, we're not fools or falling for any particular person or anything like that. But what is very important for us to point out is that seeing what she has done going forward opens the door for a lot of people, specifically a lot of women, specifically for a lot of people who don't who don't think they matter. I want to bring up something else again, and this has to do with the letter that the president wrote to the head of state. I want people to remember this letter, the quality of this letter, the intellect that went into writing this letter, the intelligence of this letter that the president wrote to Erdogan. And the reason I think it's important is for us to understand the reason why this person should not be the president. And I don't care whether he leaves or not. I'm saying when it comes to 2020, if we allow this president, and I'm not only talking to Democrats, I'm not only talking to libertarians or Greens or whatever, I'm talking to everybody. This letter alone, the content in this letter, should scare every single person. I showed you it yesterday and I'm showing it again today, because this shows a level of incompetence that is a clear and present danger. That letter is a clear and present danger to us all. And let's not be fooled. Let's understand that, and let other people understand this. This, at this point, isn't about party. At this point, this is about the country and who represents us, and not only who represents us, but what happens going forward. The deep state that this president talks about a lot, and I'm moving off of president in a minute because I don't want to be consumed with this president at all. We don't need to be talking about this. We need to be talking real issues. But let me tell you what's important here. The deep state that is supposed to keep an even keel irrespective of political parties. That's why we have the deep state is real, okay? There is a deep state. It's called the bureaucracy. And a bureaucracy is necessary because in between governments and so forth, things must continue to run, and there must be faith in what is the country and the new president or whomever sets the pace. But this deep state that was there, if this deep state was effective as it should have been, President Trump should not have been able, and by the way, none of us want perpetual war. All of us want us out of these places. But the way it was done was dangerous. The way it was done to simply throw one of our allies under the bus, whether good or bad, was horrendous, and it puts your life, when you travel overseas, when you travel in different places, it puts your life in danger. So your president, our president, with this act, irresponsible, irrational, shoot from the hip act, has put us all at risk. And the deep state, which should have been there to mitigate it somehow, to attenuate it. In other words, when I say attenuate it, if a president is going to cause an atomic bomb to drop on the United States of America, the deep state is supposed to be there to run to Congress. That's why you have things like the Whistleblower Act and all these other things. To run to Congress to say, hey, if this occurs, this is going to harm the country. There's a whole lot of back and forth that should go on to mitigate that. So, folks, that's what I wanted to bring to you. Now, let's go ahead and get into our interview with Robby Caban, because we're going to talk a little bit about gentrification at the Tyler Perry Studios, and then we'll move on from there. So let's go ahead without any further. Well, you know what? I better go ahead and tell you guys about the program first, right? I didn't give an explanation about what the program is going to be. I just got into talking, and that's how I get sometimes. I'm so excited. I get into it. So anyhow, activist real estate agent Robby L Caban, answer to reverse gentrification. Activist real estate agent Robby L Caban is back with us at the Tyler Perry Studios discussing solutions to gentrification. Robby L Caban, the activist, is at it again. Her passion shown against the current implementation of gentrification in Atlanta and throughout the United States is palpable. Interestingly, she does this at her personal financial detriment. After all, she's a real estate agent. I call her the activist real estate agent. And given the amount of work that she's doing, I think she needs to do a lot more as far as being able to get that message out, because I don't think I've seen somebody so passionate about what's going on in the real estate market, because again, she works it. But it's hard to work a market that somehow you're pointing out is problematic, right? I mean, if you work on something that is paying your income, it's hard to say, oh, it is bad, this stuff here is not good, and that is what she's doing. But that is what activism is all about. All of us who are full-time activists make sure, a lot of times at our own detriment, to do things like this. Today, Robby continues on last week's story. She is now on the other side of the Tyler Perry studio, the more affluent side. It is there that she sits in her car and has the necessary conversation with me on gentrification in an interesting form. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and listen to our activist, Mademoiselle Robby L Caban. Let me get that here, and here we go. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm here with Miss Caban. Where are you right now?
I'm here at Tyler Perry Studios. This is Fort McPherson. It's a decommissioned military base. And this is partly owned, 300 acres, by Mr. Perry. And the Department of Veteran Affairs still operates here. This is the security gates. This is probably some stuff coming in for the sound studios, the film studios. There's 17 sound stages.
Now, last week, you were in another community, and it didn't look as nice as it looks there. Tell me a little bit about that.
No, it's clearly very different. There's really, what can I say? It's very different. It's just, interestingly enough, Tyler Perry has a saying about the haves and the haves not. So we're at the have side.
Oh, so there are two sides to the studio.
Yeah, as you can see. The other side didn't have manhole covers. The other side was clearly impoverished with boarded up houses. There was no economic vitality. The grounds, there was litter everywhere. It was dangerous to even walk. And this is quite beautiful. Everything's manicured, secure, tributes, artist tributes. And it's the same base. Here's clearly the wall that was supposed to come down. Here's the entryway, which is very secure. And here's the wall that goes all the way blocking, the fort and the studios from the community.
Now, you were on the other side the last time, correct?
I was. And clearly this is a huge, huge difference. I'm positive they won't let me through. But one thing that came up in the critique was, is this the responsibility of Mr. Perry? And one thing to understand that is not widely known is that when military bases are decommissioned, the charter requires that they are developed in such a way that benefits the local communities surrounding with holistic development. And what that means is that it's an inclusive type of development. It is not an exclusive. And I mean, draw their own conclusions. I don't know how you get any more exclusive than that.
Okay, let's see. It says please turn your light. Identification required. Okay. Quédate calladito, okay? Hi, I'm going to go to one of the Fort McPherson meetings. Okay, thank you. I see here left or... Okay, left, I got it. Thank you. Bueno.
Como te dije.
Okay, audience check-in. I really think there is a meeting here today, ironically. I wonder if we should just try to go to that. And honestly, I really like it. Is that's why people are coming here. From the East Coast, from the West Coast, we don't have the Florida hurricane problems, the storm problems, etc. We don't have water, but we have what's considered an incredible low cost housing stock.
Right.
East Coast and West Coast, where people, they come here with so much cash, their money goes so much farther, and it's really impacted, the city. It's interesting because the same people who work like on the Beltline, when you watch these developments, there's always a pattern of who's involved, and one person, a player here who's a developer, is Brian Hooker. And it's interesting because the ARC, the Atlanta Regional Commission director, is Doug Hooker. And everyone always wonders, because these projects are always getting money from the ARC, the Atlanta Regional Commission, the Beltline did, and Brian Hooker worked on that. Fort Mac LRA did, and Brian Hooker worked on that. If there's some type of connection between these two men. But the bottom line is, if we decommission this military base and we sold it below value to Mr. Perry, and the rules and policies on decommissioned bases are the charter specifies that it should help the communities surrounding in a holistic and inclusive way, anyone can see that there's a disparity between this side and the side we were at last week.
And is it two different cities, or are they the same cities, or?
No, this is still City of Atlanta proper, but the City of Atlanta does have lines that crosses into what's called Tri-Cities, which is East Point, Hateville, and College Park. And really, the dividing line is under 20, so it would be beneficial for really the city as a whole, but especially the Southside communities, including Tri-Cities, to come together and demand the economic vitality of the South Side and stability, because it's in our best interest, and in my opinion, the development of Metropolitan Parkway is the easiest way to do that.
Now, you have been one of the activists that have been trying to get in or stay in touch with the mayor and others in Atlanta with regards to keeping all these, ensuring that all communities are served. Do you have within that community activists that are there working with you to try to make sure that Paris Studios and everybody else fulfill the mission of ensuring that these bases that are decommissioned are actually serving the community as well?
I do, but the thing is, these processes take a really long time. They take too long, and it's because...
Is that purposefully? In other words, a lot of times, just like with voter suppression, you don't really do voter suppression by telling somebody you can't vote. You just wait them out. I mean...
kind of, and it's funny, not funny, but it's ironic, because, it has stuck out. I'm going to try to turn this around so you can see all these amazing fancy cars that are going by into the studio. Like, they just went by the wall. But it is because the problem is really, it's twofold or threefold. It's this convoluted problem. One is that the city engagement structure, which is the NPU, it's the Neighborhood Planning Unit in Atlanta, formed by the late Maynard Jackson, which was intended to make sure that regular citizens had direct access to City Hall. Well, the current structure allows neighborhood associations to, which is the bottom line, the original or the initial engagement tool at the base level, to charge monetary dues for people to vote or hold office in the neighborhood association. And then that neighborhood association, in turn, is given time at the NPU meeting, the Neighborhood Planning Unit, which we have many NPUs throughout Atlanta, and then that agenda, right, their letters of support, what those neighborhood associations desire, trickles up to Atlanta Planning Advisory Board for policy recommendation, followed by the Atlanta City Council for legislation acceptance. And because of the monetary dues factor, those neighborhood associations have very little membership and participation in terms of the whole neighborhood. They may have, and I'm very, very generous with these numbers, 20% of the community collective. And the members that they do have who charge dues and hold office are often gainfully employed homeowners, new residents, and predominantly affluent, whether it's white or black. So in essence, the elite agenda gets passed to City Hall and executed, which becomes to some degree consequentially a gentrification agenda, leaving the community collective needs out.
Ironically, that is
like 10 other problems.
Ironically, that is a story city after city after city after city. Now, you were, I think you were interviewed for an article with the New York Times. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think there's some mention to this as well, right?
I had really hoped that the coverage would be more comprehensive, not a typical, Wall Street to blame for gentrification, bad policy, investors, and so on. That's a very broad, it's necessary to cover, but I think there's a theory, and I'm in agreement with it, that all politics is local.
Right.
And so when this structure, is allowed, which is so simple to change, there's a complicity in the city, and I tend to wonder, like, maybe the city wants the revenue, and this is the only way they see progress, or maybe the city elected officials don't see poor, low-income communities as valuable, or maybe they look down on poor, low-income communities, thinking that these people are not aiding in tax revenue, therefore deserve no representation.
I think, let me stop you a second, because I think you've hit the nail on the head, right? But unfortunately, what people fail to see is, if you don't look at humanity as something to invest in, then poor people that you don't invest in will always remain a burden. You have to look at that as, you just said something. Maybe they don't see a way of getting revenue from them. I do see a way of getting revenue from them. And the way to get revenue from them is to hire within that community, to rebuild that community, and a rebuilt community start to bring revenue. It's not instantaneous, but it's a way of building and raising everybody up, right?
I am in complete agreement. In fact, I don't know any poor people, and I know a lot of them, who don't want, they're not looking for a handout. They're looking for a handout. That people use that phrase. increase over time. And what I unfortunately see is a lot of people coming very opportunistic, folks coming in and utilizing the resources that were intended for these lower income communities. And then those lower income communities get pushed farther and farther south in affordable housing that we subsidize, or to rural Georgia, and then we're going to pay for it. We're going to continue to pay for it on a state level. And I look at the fiscal responsibility of it. I'm a taxpayer, I'm a homeowner, I'm a business owner. I don't want my money going to subsidizing affordable housing or a homeless crisis or arresting people, enforcement, all of the consequences. I want my money going to empowering the communities of the long-term residents who are here that these grants, these federal grants were intended for.
One of the things that I hope you put in some of the narratives that you do as an activist real estate agent is to point out that you just made an important statement. You don't want your revenue used to build, those subsidized housing, etc. But let me tell you what that revenue really is. That revenue is really subsidizing the wealthy. When they ask everybody else to do what you do, we are subsidizing the wealthy because they come, they gentrify an area, they send them out. Since these people no longer have, we the taxpayers have to find a way to support them. So in effect, by allowing that gentrification, we are paying to enrich a few. And the thing about it, Robby,
the developers, the real estate flippers, exactly. They make bank on all of these subsidized housing. If you look at the photographs of our elected officials in Atlanta who are predominantly Black, anytime a project like this comes, people standing next to them are not.
Right. Interesting enough, I think that is when it comes to explaining the cost of gentrification, right? Many people look at it as, well, we're just kicking out those poor people, and well, the wealthy who are going in there to solve the problem, that is okay. I think those of us who are activists, have to change the narrative to say no. All Americans, wherever you live within that state or that city, you are paying for that gentrification, as you have to find resources to take care of those who were gentrified out of the community.
And to be very plain about it, it's not as lucrative. Okay, I have a real estate background. I've used to.
Well, you sell homes, right?
I sell homes. I sell commercial properties. I handle property management. I do prior to having my own license to serve the general public, I was an investor. I've owned income-producing properties. Prior to doing real estate, I traveled, with work for over 10 years in global markets with marketing, and I can guarantee, literally, that the gentrification and whitewashing of Atlanta would never, ever, ever be as financially lucrative as uplifting and empowering the communities of color, the lower income communities, and establishing, which we've actually put this in a plan, a global hospitality regional economy on Metropolitan Parkway. And I'm happy one day to do a live on Metropolitan Parkway. It connects the world's busiest airport, Hartsfield-Jackson, which has triple expansion right now, which is growing and serves a global economy. And this parkway is a desolate, barren parkway that leads to the Atlanta Downtown Financial District that goes through Southwest Atlanta and connects us from the south side to downtown. And it is irresponsible, reckless, stupid for elected officials to not allow that comprehensive plan created by the community collective. I know I was there. I chaired that committee under the NCUS Economic Development Committee. It's been sitting in that committee for 2 to 3 years because we have a neighborhood engagement system, a neighborhood planning unit, community engagement system that allows obstruction and executes gentrification. And in essence, the people who have control of that system they only see small-scale development, which is very prevalent throughout Georgia in smaller cities, as viable.
That is.
And they don't see the lower income. They don't see the potential of the lower income people of color community.
Now, you just spoke about that plan. Tell me a little bit about the plan before we go here.
Sure. It's a super simple concept, so it's a comprehensive plan that's multi-layered, and we hope to get it in front of the city of Atlanta. We have a huge issue with pay-to-pay politics, which is the reason for its destruction, along with the really lack of respect for our for communities who have massive potential and extensive geographic desirability in these parcels of land. But in essence, the idea is that right now, Southwest Atlanta and Tri-Cities does not have a regional large-scale economy. We have huge workforces that have not been put to productivity that want to work for direct local access, and we have a barren parkway that used to be car lots, and it used to be viable before white flight. So the frontage on this parkway is huge, and it connects to downtown, and you have a skyline view. The idea is that we would pick up that global traffic, and instead of the global traffic bypassing Southwest Atlanta, we would service that global traffic in a hospitality district based on cultural tourism, and it has several other components that makes it very, very unique. Green components and also animal friendly. It's a beautiful vision because people would have an artistic experience walking through this district that would be vertical. It's huge, dense housing with businesses on the bottom, hotels, large-scale business, etc., so that people could come to Atlanta and see the evolution of the Black experience, including the Native American experience, which we have a history of that. There's so many historic venues throughout, and instead of the Southern Confederate, monuments that are throughout every town square, we would have the people in history who have not been celebrated. Malcolm X, statues of these people, and that is, it's not only financially viable, but it's really what is necessary to heal the bridge and the divide, the racial divide here. And it would put a ton of people to work in the construction. It would allow housing for tons of people because it's dense and it's vertical. And it would have massive business on the main level with traffic that would come from the airport that wouldn't mind the diverse people that would work there. And we also have a connection to the AUC, which is the Atlanta University Center, and Metropolitan State College, which could have internships for our folks who are learning to work and then establishing their own businesses.
It's amazing. It's amazing if we had people with these plans throughout the country in all these cities. Think about what we could do to all the areas that are right now considered deprived. It could really create a rejuvenation and also increase actually increase the whole economy on a whole.
Agreed. That's the thing why it's so silly to listen to folks who have such little vision, who have such little exposure, and not improve our neighborhood or our community engagement systems to stop wasting our money.
Gentrification. Robby, I think if we apply, instead of calling it gentrification, if we established it in sort of planning in the manner that you guys have come up with, I think it would make a hell of a lot more sense.
I would love to see Atlanta as a model. And I pray that our mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, who we have written to meet, Egberto, you're included in that meeting because I want you to cover it nationally. But Atlanta can be a model, and Atlanta can have a very healing experience. Atlanta doesn't have to densify to be better. In fact, that would be a huge mistake. It will make Atlanta less than what Atlanta could be. And we sit in the middle of the country in a beautiful state that has so many resources that could be leveraged for everybody. Or we're going to pay for it anyway. We're going to pay triple and quadruple anyway.
Robby L Caban, our activist real estate agent, who's going to make sure that gentrification does not kill Atlanta. Okay, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm really taken, and I wish we had some activists, real estate folks in every city. I know here in town we have a lot of activists that are really trying to protect their neighborhoods against not against gentrification, but to ensure that gentrification doesn't come in there in a manner that really hurts the community. In other words, they're not investing in the community. They're just there to extract the typical thing that unfettered capitalism does, which is take as much as I can get, give as little as I can, and that is a definition of how we operate. Well, the idea is there are other ways to do things. There are things that there are more humane ways to do things. Please do, Kathy. You can go ahead and tag Rita without any problem. That's not a problem. You can tag anybody you want, and that, in fact, That is what we want, Kathy. We want everybody. Please tag away. That is what we want. Everybody tagged and getting all this information as it comes up. Anyhow, I have a blog of the week, but something else kind of touched me, which I also included in the preamble to the show. I think I'm going to touch on that first. It is an article that came out in the Common Dreams. I don't know how many of you actually watch Common or read Common Dream. Common Dream is an excellent progressive rag as well, just like Daily Kos, or may I say Politics Done Right, meaning egbertowillies.com or politicsdoneright.com. That's out there, and the title of their article is Sallie Mae's Hawaii Retreat, While Millions Struggle to Repay Loans, Bolsters Argument to Cancel All Student Debt, Sanders says, which is true. I mean, the more I see let me talk a little bit about economics, and I'm going to try to do it in a fun way. In other words, you hear me say economics, a lot of people drop off. Oh, boom, getting out of here. We want something exciting. Trump impeach. Look, the reason these guys are so effective as what they do is that we're not well aware of things that occur. We are not well aware of how things work, okay? One of the problems with our economic system is we turn everything into a product. And I am not anti-free enterprise at all. In fact, I don't mind turning as much as you want to into a product. I have several products of my own. I've probably 20-something products that I've created from scratch. But I created it from scratch. It wasn't so I expect to make the most profit out of the stuff that I created from scratch. If I'm reselling something from somebody else, I don't make as much. But I'm there helping them move it, and that's what you're compensated for. If I have my website and I have advertising on my website to try to offset some of the costs, I'm doing that to bring, I'm providing a service. If I am asking for contributions for a show like this, like I always am asking at politicsdoneright.com, please go ahead and contribute. If I am doing that, I'm offering a service. But everything is not a product. And what they've done is our economic system has turned healthcare into a product. It has turned education into a product. And it tries to turn everything into a product, things that are not supposed to be product. Why are they not supposed to be product? If your ultimate goal is to make a profit off of something, making that thing as a product means you have to try to sell as much of that thing if you want to maximize your whatever income you have. So when it comes to healthcare, what it means is for an insurance company to make more profits, because it sells insurance as a profit, the only way for their profits to increase is either to increase the price of insurance or decrease the level of service. And what they normally do is both, so that the shareholders get more money and the executives get bonuses and higher salaries. So you make insurance into a product, that's the result. If you make healthcare into a product, what you get, meaning let's say the pharmaceuticals, what you get is they try to create, notice if you watch TV today, everything turns out to be a disease. So your foot shakes, it's a disease, I got a pill for that. If your head hurts on one side, even a scratch, I got a pill for that. And so if you are a drug company and you've made medicine into a regular product like any other product, what happens then is they have to sell the whole hell out of that. And because we don't only believe in steady state economies, we believe in an economy that is in perpetual growth, which of course is an impossibility, but that's what the business schools teach. So whenever you turn everything into a product, again, healthcare now, you're going to see a dentist. Do you remember? And I want to be clear on this, because I don't go to dentists anymore. I don't. I buy a whole lot of material and I clean my teeth myself and I try to scrub it myself and I try to whiten it myself. I know I probably have a few cavities that I try to make sure it never gets filled up because, I make sure to keep it clean, And let me tell you why. I went to a dentist once. Well, I went to a dentist. I used to go to a dentist to clean up frequently, but I went to the dentist and they found a cavity after I was I think my first cavity was discovered in my 40s. Here's the deal. The guy saw the cavity and he said, okay, we need to put a crown on. And I'm like, why? And he said, you have a cavity. Why not just fill the damn thing with some cement? With, the white, I don't even want the silver thing. I want the cement, the cheap stuff. Throw the cement in there. If it pops out in the next 2 years, pump it back in. But no, they want to do a crown. Why? It's about maximizing the profit. So every time you go to a doctor's office, a dentist's office, it's no longer about just filling a crown that may cost, in my days, $20, $30, $40. It is a crown that costs you $1,500. Right? It's a product. And that's how they're marketed. The people who sell all these products sell it to the dentist as a way to maximize your income. In the olden days, a dentist felt himself responsible for your health without bankrupting you. Today, a dentist believes, okay, I'll charge you as much as I can get out of you. And then if you don't have the money, I will even find a company who will finance you. So the method is different, and the method comes with the economic system that we have. And what I'm trying to do with many of my programs is tell us that we can take back control from this over-consuming economic system that turns everything into a product, and in turning everything into a product is pilfering you and enriching just a few. Why am I saying enriching just a few? There are the dentists that own their own practice. There are a few. There are few people in the aggregate, okay, that owns the kinds of businesses that are just there to push product. If you have a restaurant, right, you have a nice menu and you create good food that people like, and people come into your thing because the taste of the food brings them in. They want to have that flavor that you give them. When you go to a dentist, you don't go to a dentist because you're going there because it gives you pleasure. So therefore, you only go to a dentist when there's something wrong and you go in there. Those types of things within our society do not belong as a product because it's a necessity. And if you make it a product, the people who develop the product must go ahead and extend or try to push as much as possible. That's why they spend so much on advertising. You turn on the TV, if you doubt it, after the show, don't do it right, we're doing the show. After the show, go ahead and turn on your TV and see how long it is before you see a cancer drug, a healthcare drug, some kind of painkiller, or something advertised on TV. And by the way, those advertisements aren't cheap. They're very expensive. So that just shows you the amount of product they got to push to you. And whether you need it or not, they push it to you. Pain pills. You remember salicylic acid, aspirin? By the way, that's all I take. I take aspirin. And you know why I take aspirin? Because I personally believe that most of these drugs that are developed for pain, that it's the next best thing, was developed because aspirin has no patent anymore. So therefore, you can't profit hugely off of aspirin because now you can't sell it the way you sold it before. So they have to keep coming up with stuff that they can throw patents on, charge you more. You know what happens when you have to do that? You can end up hurting people. You remember something called Vioxx? Vioxx was the latest pain drug, right? I mean, they have to find other ways to fix pain. Because, we need to find a way to patent these drugs to fit pain. And by the way, on a side note, Remember, most drugs are developed at universities with your dollar already. So when you hear the drug companies talk about research and development and how we'll have a lack of drugs if somehow we force them, if we regulate them that they can't pill for you anymore, that somehow will reduce innovation, that's bull. Universities and all these guys do much of the development on chemicals that they know are biologically functional. And then these guys, when they see, oh, we may be able to make some money out of that, then they take the drug on to the private sector and then they sock it to you. So you pay for it twice. You pay for it when they deliver it, they pay for it when they're done getting all the approvals and so forth, and you also pay for it when it was in development at universities with grants and tax dollars. So don't let them fool you. It's a complete racket. The drug industry, the pharmaceutical industry is a complete racket, as well as just about all these different groups within the healthcare industry that we continuously subsidize. So anyhow, we have to stop making things like education a product. That's how I started this anyway, because of the Salome, the people who are responsible for giving a whole lot of kids loans, most of them now, or a lot of them now on the private side. A lot of these guys, they're in Hawaii having $1 million vacations on corporate dollars for the people who work there. And, we have people that are struggling. I mean, the example that MSNBC, that NBC showed was a young woman who had, I guess, a $200,000 loan or some amount of loan, and over the last 10 years, it has ballooned, not gone down. It has ballooned to something like $300-something thousand, and they wanted her to start paying a mortgage payment on it, pretty much $2,100 on it. You ask yourself why so much. It's because, again, these guys are borrowing free money from the government, and then they are loaning it out at these high rates. If you get a private insurance, if you get a public insurance, one that's federally guaranteed, generally you're okay. But in the past, it was even worse. That's the interesting thing. In the past, it was actually much worse than it is right now. But it's so important, folks, for us to talk about these issues, because now that everybody is talking about impeachment, now that the whole news media is consumed with impeachment, I think it's a racket. It's a racket so that we don't talk about all these issues that are hurting a whole lot of people. It's a racket because we make it believe like Trump is like the impeachment of Trump or the person who comes after Trump is going to be much better unless it's going to be much better. Let me just end it right there. The truth of the matter, no. Whether it's Biden or whether it's some other person, it's going to be only much better if, first of all, we elect that person who claims the progressive mantra. And then when they have the progressive mantra, we also elect senators and we elect congresspeople and many others. I'll talk about Brexit in a minute, Bruce, and others again, we have to make sure to get representatives, congresspeople, and all these guys on board. We still have one person, one vote, folks. We still have one person, one vote. So therefore, anybody who's telling you, any Democrat who stood on that stage and said Bernie Sanders is looking at pipe dreams, anybody who said Elizabeth Warren is looking at pipe dreams is somebody that must be completely eliminated off of your list as a potential candidate for the Democratic nomination to the presidency. Anybody who calls these things a pipe dream should be eliminated from your choice for the presidency. Because, my friends, we are in dire straits with what they have done to our society thus far. Is asking for Medicare for all a left-wing idea? No, it is not, first of all, and 70-something% of Americans want it. Is it going to increase taxes? No, it's going to decrease taxes. It will decrease the taxes of most middle-class people because your health insurance premium plus all your co-pays are, in fact, taxes. If they are not there, you don't pay them, so therefore, your taxes will be reduced. Anybody preaching Medicare for all. Elizabeth Warren, are you listening to me? They've been accusing you of not being honest as Bernie Sanders is when he says he's going to raise taxes. I'm saying in this regards, Bernie Sanders is wrong. My brother, Bernie Sanders, is wrong. Okay? And let me tell you what I mean. Bernie Sanders need to start saying the tax rate for every middle-class person will be reduced because given that you must have health insurance, that is a tax. And as such, you will pay less. Elizabeth Warren, get on board. You drive the narrative. When the Republicans decided to make Social Security and all these other things entitlements, remember how they decided to make the name change so that they could start using that word entitlement to make it look like you are saying you're entitled to something. Let's make sure and do it the right way, though. Remember, progressives are honest. Progressives tell the truth. Therefore, let's make sure and tell the truth about Medicare for all. Your taxes will go down. I mean, I have videos out there that says, am I going to raise your taxes? And where I says, yes, I'm going to raise your federal taxes and you should be glad for it. I decided to change my stance because I was wrong. Your taxes won't go up. I forgot that a healthcare premium is a tax. So therefore, your taxes are going down. Put it in your heads, people, and please, my brothers and my sisters, start putting that out as the narrative going forward. Taxes are going down for Medicare for all. Taxes are going down because health care premiums are taxes. Worst thing is taxes to a private company. Sadly, it's a tax to a private company. Wow. Anyhow, now when it comes to, so if you have a politician telling you, any Democrat running telling you it's a pipe dream, remove them from your list. Please remove them from your list immediately. That means Biden and Klobuchar and this guy talking about Medicare for those who want it. He needs to grow up, because Medicare, if you have that bifurcated system, what happens then is the only people who get on the Medicare for all are the people insurance companies find a way not to insure. And then their only option becomes Medicare for all. So they get all the healthy people. They don't have to pay a whole lot of money. The Medicare for all turns out paying a whole lot of money because they get all the sick people. And at that point, then these same guys that didn't insure the sick people say, you see, Medicare for all is more expensive. No, it's because you're thieves. All right, the other thing is everybody wants people to work. We all want folk to go out there and work. You know, in fact, we happy. Hi, Sheila Lee. They are eliminated because they do not have a black agenda. A black agenda. Sheila Lee, go ahead and tell me what you mean by a black agenda. I want to see exactly what, in what regards you're talking about the black agenda. I have some ideas, probably pushed out by the ADOS, and I'd like to talk about that as well. But anyhow, so my friends, when you accuse folks of not wanting to work, ask the questions, who takes care of their kids when they go to work? We need a system in that takes care of kids like they do in Switzerland or France or whatever, that has some sort of a program that gives you that option to go out there and work, and at the same time not work simply to pay for the child care when you're at work. When it comes to student loan, it's a must. The student loan has always been a racket. It's been a racket because the corporations paid the states. The corporations coerced the states into reducing taxes, and in reducing taxes, the states paid less of the education costs. And in paying less of the education costs, the students had to pay more of their monies for an education. And to pay more of the money meant they had to take loans out from these corporations. And these corporations then needed educated people to hire so they can continue to make profits. So they get the they get the people to pay for they get the student to pay for the education they need to pay for the education that the corporations need to survive. It's a racket. It's a racket. Ultimately, they forget the social contract. And that social contract says we all pay taxes to educate us all so that we can have a vibrant economy with an educated people. But that's not what the corporations want. They want it on both sides. They want to loan you the money for an education, suck the interest out of you for the time you spend on earth, hire an educated person that cost them very little to educate because, well, you got the education elsewhere, and then pay you less. And then, of course, they charge you for... It's a racket that has to be mitigated. On Brexit, my dear brother Pollard, Brexit was likely the biggest mistake since Chamberlain, I think, in Great Britain. Okay? Great Britain is going to lose quite a bit out of trying to get out of a big united union. Now, so far they are making a deal with Ireland. You know, Ireland is on the same island with the Northern Ireland, the same island with Ireland. So they're going to find some way to keep the border there free. And in the process, I tell you what I honestly think, though. I think Ireland is their back door. I think England itself is going to just remain crazy they're going to get out of the European Union. And if the European Union accepts that special border with Ireland, then guess what happens? I don't see how Ireland doesn't just become a gate into England. And those people who want the English-type lifestyle from Europe will just simply migrate to Ireland, Northern Ireland, because, again, there will be no restrictions between there. So, I mean, altogether, I think Brexit is a humongous mistake. And, because I don't know that they're going to get preferential... Europe is not going to allow them to get preferential treatment economically. It also means that things like passport and free movement around Europe, all of that they were privy to, something that I think is well worth it, is gone for a sense of nativism, a false nativism at that. So that is my superficial take on Brexit. Deep down, I don't really have a position deep down. And the reason I don't have a position deep down is all these economies pretty much work the same. So, they're all democratic socialist states, from England right back to Canada, right back to Switzerland at some different level. Even America is a democratic socialist state, just in a very, 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 very minor way after you become 65. It's amazing, right? It's amazing that America become socialist when you become an adult. When you become a non-working adult, America is a socialist state. But everything else, it is not. I just find it completely ironic. We have to educate ourselves to let people understand how things work. But I said on Politics Done Right, I'm going to stop using the word socialist because people don't understand it. Until I get a way to express certain things the right kind of way, I won't. Sheila, I'm still waiting for you to give me a response on the Black agenda as you see it. So I'll be waiting for you to respond to that. The blog of the week is in the blog post. I would suggest that you go ahead and read it. It's a post that I wrote on the front page of the Daily Coast in April, and I brought it out today especially because where things are in our society, and a whole lot of things are taken up with Donald Trump. And I want us to get off of just thinking Donald Trump. Let Congress keep investigating Donald Trump. Let the news media put out their stuff. Listen to Politics Done Right. Listen to Majority Report. Listen to TYT and all these guys. Read dailycoast.com. Read commondreams.org. Read opednews.org. I make sure and contribute to all those guys as well, because we need independent media where you can get more than the little crap that you get on the mainstream media, because there's so much happening more than Trump that we have to be aware of. Those of you who are coming to Politics Done Right, I'm coming close to the end of the show, and I want to remind you guys that we are a show that need your support. So I'm asking you to please go to politicsdoneright.com. Please go to politicsdoneright.com and become a contributor, become a member. Go to politicsdoneright.com/join. Join the fold. What you get, just go to the page and you see all the different things that we have to offer. It is very important that we support this medium. Why is it important that we support this medium? It is important that we support this medium to ensure that when people are hyperventilating on Trump as if it's the end of the world, when they are hyperventilating on issues that don't matter, you can get some here. You can get at least another point of view, what I like to call a more prescient point of view, a point of view that is more centered around you than centered around a plutocracy. Centered around a plutocracy. So I'd like to end the program by just telling you again, please go to politicsdoneright.com and join us either through Patreon or PayPal, politicsdoneright.com/join, and let's keep this thing going. That is the only way we're going to make it. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby every single time. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.